Okay, guys, so right now what we're going to do is look at multiplying radicals. And just to kind of go off your notes, we've talked about the idea of properties of square roots and exponents. And what we're trying to do is just try to show you guys how they're related to each other if I'm multiplying square roots. So one of the things that we know is that the square root of AB is the same thing as me taking the product of AB to the 1/2. Because we can rewrite every root as a rational exponent. Now, what we can also do is take that 1/2 to both A and B based off the power of a product property. And then I can also take my fractional exponent and rewrite it as a root again. Two different roots in this case. So what can happen is I can go from here all the way down to there, but conversely, I can go from here all the way back up to here using the same properties. So just to give you guys an example, this is at the lower of page 1. If I look at the square root of 25 and the square root of 5 times 5 and the square root of 5 times square root of 5, what do I get? Well, I get exactly the same thing. That the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 5 times 5 is 5. So the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is also 5. So using all of this, I can say, hey, this is the same thing as that. So just to give you guys an example, like if I have the square root of 10 times the square root of 5, well, using what we just talked about, I could say, hey, that's the square root of 5 times 10, which then allows me to say the square root of 50, which then allows me the chance to simplify to get 5 square root of 2. So let's look at an example. So in this case, guys, I have the square root of 6 times negative square root of 12. So using kind of what we were talking about, I can put these both underneath the same radical sign. I could say, hey, 6 times 12 go underneath the radical sign. Now, let's deal with this negative. This is in front of the radical sign. That's a -1. So I could put a -1 in front of the radical sign. So whatever's underneath the radical sign can go together. Whatever's outside the radical sign, go together. Okay? So right now, I have -1 square root of 72. And then what we're going to do is just break this down. I know this is 6 times 12. I know this is 3 times 2. I know this is 4 times 3. So right now I have 2 3's, a 2, and that 4 breaks down to be other 2's. So I have a pair of 2's. I have a pair of 3's. So right now I have a -1 in front of my radical sign. I'm going to take out a 3 because I have a pair of 3's, and I had another pair of 2's that I could take out. And underneath my radical sign, I'm just left with a 2. So -1 times 3 times 2 is -6 square root of 2. Okay? Well, let's look at another example, number 2. In this case, I have 2 square root of 10 times the square root of 3. Now, there's no number there, so I'm going to put a 1 in front of that. So I can take whatever's in front of the radical signs and multiply them together. So I got 2 times 1. Whatever's underneath the radical signs, I can multiply together. So I get 3 times 10. So that's a 2. Now let's look at 3 and 10. I mean, that's 30. But 30 breaks down to be 6 and 5, 3, 2, and 5. Do I have any pairs of anything? No. So what happens is I end up with 2 square root of 30. Final answer. And let's look at the last one right here. So I'm taking 2 square root of 6 times -3 square root of 8. Same idea. Whatever's in front of the radical signs, I can multiply together. So I got 2 times negative square root of 3. Whatever's underneath, I can multiply together. So I got 6 times 8. So I got -6 square root of 48. 48 breaks down to be 6 and 8. 2, 3, 2, 4. That breaks down to be 2's. So it looks like I have 4 2's and a 3. So I have a pair of 2's, another pair of 2's. So right now I got negative 6 times 2 times 2 with the square root of 3 at the end. So I end up with negative 24 square root of 3. So guys, based off what we got right here, what I want you to do is, I didn't write these down, but I want you guys to try these 2 problems for me, and we will talk about them on Monday. Thanks, guys.